Imagine if you went to therapy and your counselor turned out to be a polyamorous transgender furry with multiple personalities. No need to imagine, you're about to find out. The person you're seeing is an online content creator and mental health counselor who goes by the name of Poppy, and in the past few years, they've been involved in a mire of drama and allegations. But before being Poppy, they were Joshua, an aspiring mental health worker who, in the early 2000s, married Juliana, a girl a few years older, with her being in her mid-20s and Joshua being just
That was interesting. I talked to Turkey Tom once.
19 years old. Most importantly, perhaps, she was 3 months pregnant with someone else's child. But he loved her so much that he was more than willing to marry her and adopt the child as his own. This isn't something many men are willing to do, but before you think this is some kind of admirable act of self-sacrifice in the name of love, Joshua, that is, after he became Poppy, not only came to regret this, but actually claimed that they were somehow groomed into the role of husband and parent, despite already being 19 years old.
Getting groomed to be a parent out of high school.
When the decision to marry Juliana was made.
When I met my kid's mom, I buried every bit of trans that was in me and basically decided to do the whole like heteronormativity thing for a long time because I was A, scared of transitioning, and B, was thinking this was the right thing to do. I was an idiot, but it did give my kid a parent.
Whether Poppy here is a reliable narrator or not, I'll let you decide. But what's suggested is that they were already trans at this point, and internalized transphobia is what got them into that position. That, or this is just how Poppy rationalized their underlying wish for the regular family life they once had. Unfortunately, this is something they didn't experience for long, since soon after the marriage took place and the child was born, Juliana tragically passed away in a horse riding accident, leaving Joshua to be a single parent to their 3-year-old daughter. There's truly no overstating the magnitude of losing your partner while you still have a very small child to take care of, and part of everything that happens from here on out is set in motion by this event. According to Poppy, their daughter is autistic. It was worth saying he deduced this was the case without a proper diagnosis from a doctor.
Yeah, so I was not always been the smartest cookie, and one of the things is I didn't have any idea how autism worked because I don't have it. I knew how.
That's insane. You definitely have autism, not the good kind. Bro, if you have a kid, a child, it's your child. You can say you're autistic, you have autistic tendencies all day. But if you have a kid that actually has autism, take them to the doctor, get them the help they need, or they end up like Chris Chan. He had severe autism, didn't have the therapist he needed growing up, didn't have the parental supervision he needed growing up. Of course, the internet was still super new back then. It's like that was back in 1998 to 2012, you know? Not what it is today, but like, come on, man.
How ADHD worked, you know, I had that down, but autism was not something I understood, and my kid was pretty autistic, and none of the doctors, the people I took them to, not a single person ever mentioned a damn thing, probably because they're AFAB.
Though information is scant on the pre-2010 years, we can assume that it was roughly during this period that Joshua attended Wayne State University, studying to eventually become a mental health counselor. He'd left a career in restaurant management behind to focus on getting the degrees he would need to do this, but despite these healthy ambitions, there were signs not everything was okay. The first sign of the extremely sexually impulsive behavior that would eventually be their undoing was when, immediately after his wife died, he got with a random goth chick from a Renaissance fair because she was hot and he needed someone in bed now that he wasn't married. I understand everyone deals with grief differently, not judging here, but they effectively put their child in danger. Poppy's daughter, whom I'll be referring to as Spawn since that's their online handle, eventually made a Tumblr post saying, "Poppy's first partner after my biological mom died was abusive, and I still have trauma from that." It's unsure what exactly was meant by this because abusive can mean a whole variety of things. Regardless, it's very possible this is in reference to the aforementioned random goth girl, meaning Joshua's pleasure-seeking activity exposed his daughter to a freak, potentially some kind of predator. Speaking of predators, Poppy has also claimed that not only were they a victim of CSA, but, and I quote, they reduplicated it and did it to someone else, this someone else being their younger cousin. It's important to say that this event allegedly took place when Poppy was a teenager and obviously not operating at their full rational capacity. However, it is inevitably something to keep in mind going forward, since believe me, it will become relevant. Another thing to remember is that Poppy has also admitted to being abusive to Spawn, which is confirmed by the latter in the same Tumblr post I just read from. While Spawn didn't specify what this consisted of, they suggested that it wasn't that bad, at least in this post. After this first partner, there were 3 more that Spawn could remember, presumably taking place anywhere between 2004 and the mid-2010s, none of which are considered relevant. It's only in the mid to late 2010s that Poppy, at some point, still going by Joshua, meets Xena, their primary partner and the one who is most known for appearing in the streams, mostly staying quiet while doing activities like knitting or coloring. Go play Warhammer like a real autistic person. Due to her passive demeanor, it's easy to trick yourself into thinking Xena is somehow milder in nature than Poppy, but you'd be very wrong. Xena, like Poppy, has a checkered past, and while she probably would like for people to only focus focus on the one time she played the martyr and got heroically kicked out of a Boy Scout camp for admitting to being a lesbian, it's not the non-binary furry coming out of the closet that's interesting here, but the skeletons that are still in it. Not many specifics are known in regard to the people she allegedly victimized or the nature of her actions, but another Tumblr post, presumably from someone in the same LGBT community as her, said, "Do not trust Xena. She is an abusive misogynist who has assaulted women in LGBT safe spaces.
Damn.
She is an aggressive trans misogynist who intimidates trans women, refuses to allow discussion of her trans misogyny, and preys on trans women." Though I do have to emphasize that these are just allegations, so as always, take it with a grain of salt. To add another layer of Machiavellian behavior on top of these claims, many people, including Spawn, have said that the whole being a quiet little grandma thing on stream is fully in act, as behind the scenes, Xena is even more aggressive and domineering than Poppy. Now is as good of a time as any to get into the alphabet soup of illnesses these people have, beginning with Xena. There are a couple physical conditions like migraines and IBS. Remember, she's a furry and probably owns a fursuit. Imagine how bad it smells. These are often cited as reasons for her being unemployed, along with something called PMDD, which is short for premenstrual dysphoric disorder, meaning dysphoria associated with accentuated PMS symptoms. But it's not just not having a job that Xena uses these issues as an excuse for. Any and all bad behavior gets swept under the rug of her conditions. If she gets upset and takes her frustration out on people, no matter how aggressive and methodical she can get, it's all the fault of her PMDD. But there may be a little wrinkle to that explanation. Xena takes testosterone, and the thing about taking T is in some cases it can literally give you roid rage, especially if you're someone with naturally low levels like she obviously would have. I'm not
24 hours, yeah. That's kind of a myth. Like, that's kind of a myth. Listen, void rage is at the end of the day. Like, is it possible? Yeah. So like, if you taking more testosterone in your bodies, can it affect your hormone? Of course. But like, there's nothing to like. It's not gonna make you a bad person. You're a bad person because you're testosterone. Change your.
not an endocrinologist, nor
it could definitely like affect your hormones, make you more depressed, make you lazy. Because like I said, it's affecting your hormones, so it's changing your whole body, and it's a transition. Like you gotta get used to it, you gotta build it up, blah blah. And like I said, I'm more talking from the point where like bodybuilders. That's what I'm. And like, I know due to steroids, tons of testosterone, the nicest, most passive people ever. And people take steroids are the most aggressive, terrifying people ever. Just like people who don't take steroids. But also the opposite effect. Like I said, yeah, it's not really real.
My specialist on PMDD, but while it is a real condition, it's not the root of her behavior issues, as many people would later point out. Seems odd that the testosterone doesn't even get considered in the discussion, but my point stands regardless. In Spawn's post, they describe Xena as not so bad when they first moved in, claiming that the only unusual thing about her was that she got sick very often due to their other housemates not being respectful about the substances they brought into the house. I'll have to do some text interpretation here because this could mean a lot of things. First off, it's entirely possible that housemates here may be referring to other partners of Poppy's due to their polyamorous lifestyle, but I'm not even sure that this was being practiced this early on in the timeline. As far as substances go, this may mean drug abuse was going on in the same household that a child lived in, which is worrisome to say the least. However, knowing Xena has intestinal issues and can't eat gluten, it may just be talking about foods that triggered her IBS. But as the 2010s approached their latter half, a lot of things changed. First off, after aiming to become a provider of gender-affirming healthcare, Poppy decided to get high off their own supply and transition as well, which is when the Poppy name popped up. At this point, Xena was still a neutral to positive presence in the household, sometimes even aiding Spawn with school and disability services. However, things changed drastically when 2020 rolled around, and all of them were confined inside their home. The aforementioned housemates were no longer present at this point, which is important since this meant it was just Poppy, Xena, and Spawn, who despite not being a minor anymore, was still obviously the person with the least authority in the household, being seen as and treated like a child.
Jeez.
Absent other people who could potentially serve as checks and balances for dysfunctional and abusive behavior, Xena's true nature reared its ugly head. Spawn's Tumblr post reads, "Xena gradually became meaner and more controlling of me, despite numerous claims of them not wanting to be my parent. This is where those structured chore times and meal times start to come into play. Now that Poppy was working from home, Xena had to be in the living room a lot. Poppy always defended me when Xena had arguments, one-sided yelling matches with me, but as time went on, she started siding with Xena more and more. I didn't really notice at first because I still loved and defended my mom. It was my friends who pointed out that my mom was treating me poorly in May of 2022. The trouble started way before that, though. I just didn't realize it was abuse and mistreatment." We'll get to the details.
Paragraphs and typing is really good, because if I were to type something like this, bro, it'd be so confusing. I'd be like, my mom was mad tripping, being a real bitch to me, treating me like shit. Her partner was also shitty as fuck.
Details of these chore and meal restrictions later when they're elaborated on by Spawn in a document made after they left the household. While it's still possible, let's stay chronological. While 2020 was named as the year things began to change, it went by mostly silent, a kind of calm before the storm. It was only in February 2021 that Poppy began having an online presence to speak of, and that's when things really kicked into hyperdrive. The second video Poppy ever posted to their YouTube channel was about how all mental health counselors have to be left-wing for them to practice ethically. In and of itself, this is the kind of OG Tumblrina core content that gets you ridiculed online, but compared to their later actions, this is a fart in the wind. The third video detailed their personal history with BPD, a sign that Poppy was nearing final form. Like Cell from Dragon Ball Z, but with mental illnesses instead of Ki. Their interest in treating mental illnesses became, or maybe always was, secondary to developing them like a human petri dish. I will admit that I have no idea which of these are amateur self-diagnoses, and which are things real psychiatrists and psychologists have diagnosed Poppy with. But I'll go over all of them nonetheless. First off, the
disease so bad. During COVID, everyone wanted to be mentally ill, have a mental disease so fucking.
Claim to have borderline personality disorder, and though the nature of this condition isn't super well understood, to put it bluntly, Poppy is to BPD the same way Xena is to PMDD, a mental condition that serves as an umbrella for any kind of misbehavior. Poppy also claims to have OSDD, and I'll save you from hearing the technical rigmarole and simplify it as a milder form of having multiple personalities, referred to as being plural. The thing is, being plural isn't recognized as a real thing, at least not yet. As a matter of fact, it's closely associated with kids who watch too much TikTok and start thinking they're anime characters in real life and start giving themselves mental illnesses so that they have an identity to cling to. Before you consider the possibility that there is some credence to the claims of being plural, Poppy's headmates, because that's what they're referred to, are Penny, a tiger-shark hybrid described as a young girl, and Pepper, a tiger-spider hybrid that is canonically 12 to 14 years old. Does this sound creepy and insane to you? It probably should. Poppy's main identity also has an animal self, a hyena, specifically because female hyenas have what is called a pseudo-penis. I won't go too deep into explaining how that works because this video is already enough as is, but from the names with alliteration, the personas, and the bizarre age-related connotations, all of this is pretty disturbing, especially since Poppy has publicly admitted to having victimized a minor once, but we'll get to the practical implications of these alters later. The content being released was par for the course. One claimed that not dating trans people if you were straight meant you were a Nazi, and another begged everyone to wear masks, nothing too unusual for the political ideology Poppy espoused. Let's also not forget that the thumbnails of these videos looked like decomposing remains of an Armored Skeptic clone from 2014. Perhaps one of the most important and hypocritical pieces of content is one video titled "Authoritarian Parenting Can Lead to Abuse." Unsurprisingly, it seems that is exactly what was going on behind the scenes. As previously mentioned, Spawn eventually made a document cataloging the Discord messages they'd sent about the abuse going on at their house. The document noticeably doesn't cover the years 2020 and 2021, probably because Spawn was still under the illusion that Poppy and Xena's behavior was somehow redeemable, believing that it'd eventually stop and normal life would resume. However, after 2 years, not only did nothing improve, but it actually got worse. I can only assume that 2022 is when Spawn worked up the courage to start telling others about what they were going through. Many things documented here aren't that egregious, but instead they serve as proof that Poppy and Xena are only really hypersensitive when it serves them. For example, there's an instance here of Poppy saying that triggers are bullshit, something the majority of their audience would probably be appalled by. But there are some serious claims here as well, and In May of 2022, Spawn describes how Xena forbade her from showering because she might need to use the bathroom, without specifying when. The context of this is that Spawn hadn't bathed in days and was walking around in 80-degree heat. Once they got home, Spawn, over text messages, asked Xena for permission to use the shower and got it, only for the permission to immediately be revoked, with Xena saying, "Actually, you should wait until we get home so the dog won't be alone for the 15 to 20 minutes you'll be in the shower for." If this seems like someone making up arbitrary rules just for the pleasure of micromanaging someone else, it's because that's what it is. Just 10 days later, Xena delivers a prolonged browbeating session over text messages, repeatedly telling Spawn not to move any of her things whatsoever, regardless of circumstance. The thing is, they're talking about objects that were sprawled over the couch, and Spawn only moved them to clean the room. In June, we get an exchange in which Poppy is complaining about how long it took Spawn to do the dishes, neglecting the fact that there were 3 days worth of dishes in the kitchen. I'm starting to believe in the horseshoe theory because of this. This is Mussolini tier obsession with punctuality. The trains must run on time. No more chuddies jumping on the bed. Spawn proceeds to complain about this on Discord, saying, "You can't offload 3 days of dishes on me and then get mad when it takes a long time. Then they got mad at me for waking up late and got mad at me for starting my bed routine 30 minutes late. I am 22, but every aspect of my life is timed. I still have a bedtime, and they keep moving said bedtime earlier and earlier because of not doing other things on time. I literally have ADHD, autism, and a heart condition. I can't always do things on time, especially..."
Dang, they were trauma dumping on their friend in Discord.
"in the heat because of my blood disorder, which means heat affects me so much worse. I collapsed a few weeks ago, and we don't have an AC and haven't since March." The blood disorder being referred to here is POTS, a condition that can be really debilitating depending on severity. Basically, it means being upright for...
Yeah, but if your moms are treating you like that, you're gonna stay. I'm saying if you're a grown-up and your parents are treating you like shit, move the fuck out. I have POTS, really?
too long, and excess heat can cause intense fatigue, nausea, and other similar symptoms. Again, for someone with this condition, an AC isn't just a convenience, but can actually keep them functional while indoors. It would be inconsiderate for a regular person to leave their kid with POTS for 3 months without AC, but considering how much Poppy and Xena virtue signal about being supportive and wholesome in their content, it's a highlight of their hypocrisy. In another incident, Spawn went to the kitchen later than usual, only for Xena to tell them they couldn't get lunch anymore. Attached is an exchange between Poppy and Spawn, which went as follows. "I get that I was late, but I need food. I should be allowed to get food when I need it. Poppy, we have a schedule in our house. You need to follow that. Xena doesn't get personal time with constant interruptions. While I agree with you that making lunch shouldn't be an issue in the past, the problem is that often making lunch has been noisy or a time to overly interact with Xena. You are also positive with COVID. That's an issue as well. Please remember that. The schedule as a whole is more important because it will prevent close contact." Spawn explained that being sick made them hungrier than usual, to no avail. I don't know about you, but I find it strange that Poppy is willing to let their biological child go hungry while they're sick, mind you, just to give Xena uninterrupted personal time. The interruption here being noises in the kitchen, which I guess are enough to disturb her precious peace. Another example of this is when Spawn recounts having to go get water from the fridge in order to take their medication, only for this to disturb Xena, who started complaining about how that should have—
Bro, this girl was trauma dumping in Discord. I feel bad for the person at the on all this.
Been done ahead of time. The only reason Spawn was doing that was that their tap water was shut off due to maintenance, something unpredictable and not within their control. I have to make a caveat here to say, is Xena sleeping in the kitchen? What kind of arrangement is this that you can't do absolutely anything in the kitchen? Otherwise, the Dark Souls boss that is your furry stepmom will awaken and hurt you. Just a day later, Spawn says, "Convinced Xena is genuinely trying to starve me. I was about to make spaghetti, and Xena told me to make something quick. I go to make a PB&J, but realize I don't have any jelly, so I ask my parents if I can use their Smucker's brand one, and they say yes. Already put peanut butter on one half of the sandwich at this point. Realize the Smucker's jelly is moldy and smells really bad, so I ask if I can use the other jelly in the fridge that's Xena's, for, need I remind you, a single sandwich. Xena says no and says, if I let you use it, then I won't have any left. Poppy has to convince them to let me use their jelly for one singular sandwich. Arbitrarily controlling food intake is a very common kind of abuse of parental authority, and given Xena is on test, as we've already established, it may be the cause of this antagonistic and territorial relationship she developed with the Spawn. However, while Xena was the main person behind terrorizing Spawn, Poppy also played a role. Despite regularly complaining that it was Spawn's own fault that their blood disorder acted up, claiming that they weren't eating properly, Poppy did things like labeling and withholding salami, one of the very few sources of protein in the house. I guess the furry thing was realer than I thought. These people are behaving like actual animals and claiming food like they're hunter-gatherers. From acting like putting plastic cups in the dishwasher was unforgivable reasonable, to yelling at Spawn for proactively putting up a gate for their dog, a chore that Poppy and Xena had neglected to do for months. It seems there was nothing Spawn could do to please them. To make matters worse, Poppy told Spawn things like, "I don't think you can ever repair what you've done to your relationship with Xena," as if she was the one at fault for it deteriorating. Spawn was yelled at for going to the kitchen
motherfucking Draco!
outside of
With
their
a
allotted
gifted
time,
sub.
yelled at for moving furniture to vacuum their bedroom, and punished with more chores. When Spawn complained, Poppy and Xena said that the domestic issues should be discussed during family meetings. But when the time came for these meetings, they either ignored everything or claimed Spawn was in the wrong. Noticing that things were being pushed to their breaking point, Poppy and Xena decided to task Spawn with making a list of things they were upset about, and the list was promptly made. It pointed out that Poppy and Xena didn't respect the strict bathroom and kitchen times, and for things to be fair, everyone should have free access to all common areas of the house. Additionally, Spawn complains that P and Z often didn't do their chores at all, letting them accumulate until Spawn had to do them all. While Poppy and Xena could opt out of doing something if they had a migraine, Spawn had to thug it out no matter how bad their pots got, and not only get things done, but get them done on time. To add to the previous mention of arbitrarily controlling food intake, not only was Spawn frequently forbidden from entering the kitchen, they also couldn't even bring snacks with them into their room. Not even if they were drinks, which people with pots regularly need to maintain their salt intake and treat their condition. Based on the list alone, it's easy to interpret that while Poppy just seems negligent and occasionally unfair.
Bro, I don't know. I feel like I agree, Drake. I feel like when I have kids, like, want to eat healthy, do my best, let me eat as much as I can, waste food. But I'm also with parents like, "You're not getting up until you finish your meal. No, that's too much food. Stop." Like, I'm gonna let especially when they're young, like, obviously keep it as healthy as I can. Let them enjoy it, you know?
Fair, Xena is systematically abusive by doing things like limiting Spawn's access to the dog for no reason and deliberately excluding Spawn from meals. It looks as if any source of positive reinforcement was getting cut off. One of the most damning aspects of the control they had was that no money was to be spent without approval from Poppy and Xena, even if the money belonged to Spawn, something many people have called financial abuse, since Poppy did at one
to spend her own money.
point threaten to freeze Spawn's account. The list was concluded with a warning that if these complaints weren't attended to, Spawn intended to move out. This wasn't an empty threat, since Spawn had been planning to do so already, speaking to an unnamed friend to secure temporary housing in case the abuse worsened. However, Poppy caught wind of this and got mad at Spawn for it. This was Poppy's assessment of the list. Half of the list items were just dishonest, and half of them were partial framings that ignored any context. To be clear, I'm not a perfect parent. I was young, abusive, and shitty when they were young, and dealing with the grief of their mom dying. But I spent 15 years in therapy and Zen Buddhism trying to make up for that shit, only to watch them try to become a wedge between myself and my fiancé. Text messages show Xena becoming upset at merely being asked what her credit score was, despite the context obviously being to help Spawn move out. Poppy and Xena's complete lack of cooperation put the plans to move out on an indefinite hold. Meanwhile, after spending a week at a friend's place, Spawn comes back to find out that the house was so neglected in their absence that actual mold had grown on the counter. Not some moist and dark corner of the house, the kitchen counter. Every attempt to make domestic living less confusing and conflicting was shot down, usually by Xena, who refused to do simple things like use tone indicators over messages to improve communication, which is I don't even understand why this is tone indicators are. Why are tone
indicators are important. Don't show tone indicators.
Indicators needed. Or let Spawn use the microwave after they hadn't eaten anything for 8 hours. On that last part, Spawn did eventually.
I've been streaming about the internet for a long time. I can read people's tones through messages, so I want to know, like, tone. You can read tone in message. Like, add a little LOL in the end if you're not being serious and you're joking. Add a little smiley face or a little 3 face on the end if you're teasing somebody. Say just kidding afterward. You know?
Eat.
Word things better. Don't say, "Go get me food." Say, "Hey, would you like to get us food tonight?" Or what are we thinking for dinner? Shit like that.
2 hours later, making for a total of 10 hours without food because Xena might get a migraine. Xena refused to drive Spawn to the dentist because she might get a migraine. Xena accused Spawn of lying about their POTS. Xena deliberately used Spawn's mealtime, preventing them from eating anything. Are you getting the picture here? It's important to note that at this point, not only was Spawn paying for rent, but also paying for the food they ate, meaning there was absolutely nothing justifying their lack of authority over anything. The extremely strict rules were bad enough as is, but the fact that P and Z didn't even try to respect them made it all significantly worse. The best example of this is that while you can't even fart in the vicinity of Xena without giving her a migraine, Poppy often barged into the bathroom while Spawn was using it, and when confronted about it, they responded with the following: "If the door's open, I can come in whenever I want. I don't care if it makes you uncomfortable." But
I wouldn't go in there, like, even if my brother was showering. door was open or my dad or my mom. If in the shower. But shut the door, girl. What the fuck?
In November 2022, Spawn still had access to their bank account, but for the entirety of that month, they were forbidden from buying any food that had to be stored in the freezer or fridge, meaning despite having money, they were limited to getting things like granola bars. Spawn was now living under the threat of having their internet access cut off, and with it, communication from friends, which is a telltale sign of abuse and even cult-like behavior. This was done under the excuse that Spawn needed to get a job, but then again, not having access to the internet makes job hunting harder than it needs to be. The stress was so bad that their hair started falling out again. The incidents continued to worsen as the end of the year approached, with Xena yelling at Spawn for getting cereal at 11 a.m. when no one else was in the kitchen. Xena was in her bedroom before deciding to get up and chase after Spawn just to berate them. When Poppy caught wind of this, all they had to say was, "I'm sorry you felt yelled at," despite wanting the authority that came with being—
What the fuck? Like, do people not like literally? I know why. Like, they're so miserable and upset with themselves on the inside. They hate themselves, their lives, and just take out other one. But like, do people not have like consciences anymore? Like a little bit of the inside them, like, damn, like I'm being evil to this girl. I'm literally starving her. Like, and she has a medical condition where she needs to eat. Like, it's crazy to be eepy. I get those like midday eeps around like 7, 8 p.m. I'll get like, damn, I'm tired. And then like if I let an hour pass to like 9, 10 p.m., I wake back up. Like at 10 p.m. I wake up because I'm so used to streaming at night that I have trouble
being a parent. Xena hated the idea of actually being a parent and having to care for the person she was lording over. Chores were weaponized as a way to prevent Spawn from being able to see their friends, but whenever this was met with unhappiness, Xena tried to play the victim and claimed Spawn was framing her.
I think it's crazy that if you think about it, and I was gonna like a story time with Ben about even maybe like me and Ben first moved in together, like when I came back from Texas and we got a house together, how crazy it was. But like for the first 2 years of me streaming, Ben wasn't streaming because he lived at home. My mom was dead, and they didn't have good enough internet to stream. So for the first 2 years, I would stream every day, and I would stream 6 p.m. to 4 a.m., 2 a.m. every single day for like, and that honestly, that makes me so happy. I fucking love it. It's like I'm about to finish my going into my 4th year of streaming, and I've been able to do this full time and like live a crazy, filling life, and that's all thanks to you. So happy just to think about you guys all so fucking much. Cause like as a kid growing up, that's always my dream. Like create content, stream, dope community. So like literally, like you can ask my brother, bro. From the moment he was old enough to talk, like I would have him holding the camera to film my YouTube videos. I would literally, bro, did you see this new YouTube video? Did you see these YouTubers beefing? What about this streamer? What about this? We gotta make this video. We gotta try this someday. We gotta do this. We gotta do that. Like since I was literally a kid, bro, 7, 6 years old, like is all I ever wanted. YouTuber, like create content on the internet, make a living off of it for a while, and like obviously I had a job for like the first 2 years, and I think I had a job, like another job. I'm saying like I had a full-time job while streaming, and I didn't get to quit my full-time job and use just social media. Like it's not just streaming. Obviously, like I make other money on social, like TikTok, whatever else. But like it's been about a little over a year where I've just been doing social media to like make ends meet, in which like it's hard, but like just the feeling that I can do that, and I've been able to build this up to that point where literally like my first month streaming on Twitch made maybe $80, and then after that it was like 120, 100, and then like sometimes they would dip down, and literally like I would like cry some months and like this. And I just like kept grinding every single day, all day long, posting. Like I'd get in trouble with my job, so I'd like be on my phone, posting, editing content, asking to leave early to stream, showing up late because I was so exhausted from streaming all night the night before, and then like finally making it take care of like my basic needs, you know?
As abusive. Despite outright saying she didn't want to be Spawn's parent, she threatened to get guardianship custody over them if they didn't get a job. Even when Poppy occasionally relapsed and was minimally nice to Spawn, Xena made sure to
are you going to file for guardianship custody of someone who's 22 years old?
Intervene and prevent it. In one instance, Poppy was about to let Spawn use the bathroom, unscheduled, but Xena made sure that didn't happen and kept them waiting another 15 minutes. As 2023 began, Spawn was occasionally burdened with over 7 hours of chores, and if they didn't get it done, they lost access to the internet. Bad enough as it already was, there were signs that it was about to worsen. Poppy, in another Munchausen by proxy moment, decided that Spawn had dissociative identity disorder and was actively trying to get her diagnosed with it. This potentially meant that Spawn stood to lose every last bit of their agency, and before
and then it was another amazing feeling that once Ben graduated high school, and one of the first things I did, my big Twitch check, I remember one month and this was back when I would make like $600 a month. That's all I'd make from all. And I had a big month. I think I did a sub goal. I didn't tell anyone what it was for, and I think I made $1,300, and I was still working as a bouncer at a club. And I remember I took that $1,300 and literally bought my brother's computer so he could start streaming, he could start editing, start getting into all that stuff. And like, honestly, to this day, that's probably one of the proudest days of my life, bro. Like, because then like he got out of high school, and yeah, he worked at Walmart for a while, but then like now he's streaming and doing all this stuff and making all this money, you know, doing his own thing, helping me out, we're helping each other. But like, that's also like an amazing.
Forced to be under the care of P and Z permanently.
Because I always told my brother, I was like, I want to do this. I want this to be my life. I want to do all this social media stuff, but like, I don't want to do it without you, bro. Like, I don't want to do it alone or separate. Solo. Like, I want it to be a team thing.
Not to mention potentially taking psychiatric meds to ensure her compliance. In another example of cult-like behavior, Poppy was withholding Spawn's mail, which almost caused them to lose health insurance. Internet access began being frequently withheld as a punishment for not doing chores up to Xena's satisfaction. The most egregious example of this being when Spawn was told that if they did all of—
I know, I remember I came home for Christmas with it. I was living in New York, and I was like, waiting for Christmas to come up. Oh, are you excited for Christmas? And I don't know how I kept that secret. Like, I always spill my gifts. I'm always like giving them up early, spilling it, but I kept it a secret. And I remember I came home from New York with it. Or next week, is BK Burger King?
The chores during the weekend, they'd get internet back on Monday. The thing is, when Monday came, the internet didn't, and when Spawn asked about it, they were accused of badgering Poppy and Xena punished them by, you guessed it, withholding the internet. Supposedly, this was because some chore wasn't done, but it wasn't specified which one. When Spawn asked Poppy, they realized neither knew, meaning Xena was keeping both of them in the dark, probably because there was no chore that went undone, and she just wanted to punish
Spawn. You guys
Spawn.
think in the next 10 to 50 years, that like having internet will be, it almost is essential to live in today's society. Do you think it'll be essential to live into society and to function and do everything without internet?
On again. This could have been easily rectified with a brief conversation with Xena, but of course she had a stomach bug and couldn't be bothered. The documented instances
Dude, I just realized her profile picture, Spawn's, is Spawn from Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. That's dope.
Abuse in 2023 become noticeably sparse because at this point, Spawn spent more time without access to the internet than with it. All of it culminated in late April, when, after spending 10 days offline, Spawn listed 2 job-related appointments they needed internet for, only for Xena to say that internet access could only be given if Spawn made a satisfactory offering in exchange. We've officially moved from abusive parent to a satisfactory.
Clearly you would like internet and computer are willing to approve the job development and interviews. What's your offer to us for having usage of it? What's your offer?
Factory offering in exchange. We've officially moved from abusive parent to tyrants all the way to Old Testament pagan deity. Xena does sound like some ancient Babylonian demon, all things considered. However, when Spawn asked what was considered an acceptable offering, Xena told her that she had to figure it out on her own. Later on, as it turns out, this was a test of some kind, and Spawn failed, though I have no clue what that means. If I were to guess, that was just the excuse Xena came up with to explain this obviously insane request. About half a
Enjoy
month
your
later,
Popeyes.
Spawn said they were going
Love
out for
that
the day
chicken
and
from
proceeded to escape
Popeyes.
through the window, emptying out a trust fund of theirs in order to afford the cost of leaving the house. When talking about this on stream, Poppy inadvertently confesses to not being concerned about their kid whatsoever, and instead just being worried about the money Spawn had taken. This is the degree of lovelessness we're talking about. Imagine if your
What
kid
the
went
fuck?
AWOL and all you thought about was money. From this entire story, you might be wondering if this dynamic duo has made other victims, and the answer is a definite yes. As I mentioned much earlier, Poppy is polyamorous, though the only partner who's
not-
really stuck around through
You're
thick
right, Casey. Not every part of the internet's great, but this part of the internet is pretty fucking.
and thin is Xena,
Our
the other
little part-
partners
our little
are a
corner of
revolving
the
door of
internet.
people with differing degrees of relevance. Until around the time Spawn left the house, which is early to mid 2023, there weren't many negative things being publicly said about Poppy and Xena, even if some people already disliked them. However, Poppy's behavior grew more and more erratic. The first sign something was wrong was when replying to a tweet by someone called Aaron, Poppy made a sexual insinuation about them, which was met with only one word: gross. But that's not the important part of the story.
Damn.
Poppy got quite upset about this exchange, saying, "I am a xenogender trans woman who literally uses a neurogender based on being hypersexual and a survivor of CSA. She simply could have said it made her uncomfortable. I would have apologized and deleted the tweet. I also stand by my behavior. I flirt with everyone over 18, and if I cross a line, I will always apologize and make amends. I do not deserve this framing or BS. If you legitimately
Over
think
someone saying gross.
I'm in the wrong, block me." It's ironic that this was said because the only reason this rant happened was due to Aaron doing just that, blocking Poppy. Woven through the tweets
What
is
the
the word
fuck?
succubian, a word Poppy uses to describe the xenogender, or maybe the neurogender, whatever it is that's responsible for the unsolicited comments, as if giving it a name made it any less inappropriate. In the same way PMDD and BPD have been used to justify bad behavior so far, Poppy's unhealthy sexual dynamics and compulsive lewdness are excused under the guise of them being succubian. However, we'd soon come to find out this signaled a much deeper problem, one which few knew about. While the situation I'm about to go over
Well,
happened
something
around the
every
same
day.
time, May 2023, information about it only came out in August of that year, when someone named Melina made a Twitter thread accusing Poppy and Xena of being abusive hypocrites. We begin
Damn.
the series of screenshots compiled and shared by Melina, with Xena
This
love
video
bombing
has so
her
many
into sticking
screenshots.
around and being extra supportive to Poppy and Xena. If you don't know what love bombing is, it's when an abuser, consciously or otherwise, overloads their target with positive reinforcement so that when said reinforcement is withheld, they feel inclined to do anything to get it back, becoming easy to manipulate. This is immediately followed by Prince of Poppy talking about the rates paid to their YouTube channels.
No, it's not pacing. Chat, what exactly is love bomb? Because like that was a definition that made sense, but like for me, like most people who like do like people think of love bomb, like oh when you first meet someone, bomb them with affection, attention, love, XYZ, blah blah blah, and then like you like it tapers off and you like you kind of asshole shithead, and then the way he described it was like during abuse moments when they pull away, you just bomb them with love and bring them back in and manipulate. Is it I guess the same thing?
Editors who are repeatedly referred to as volunteers, so I'm not too sure about these.
Described it can be both. Cause like for me, I'm not gonna lie, like I'm very demisexual, like 1,000%. So like for me, like I'm not a super sexual person. I mean, I make a lot of sexual jokes, but like I mean, like any of you guys who know me, talk to me, especially off stream, not always like joking and stuff. Like I'm not super sexual. I'm not super flirtatious or anything. I'm a very like laid back individual because like I don't really have a sexual desire for somebody to like honestly like it's just here's how it is, like I don't have feelings for any, not really looking, and then just someone will catch my eye, bro. I will just become like very obsessive with them. I'll just like I get very lovey dovey, this, and people are like, you're not love bombing me, are you? I'm like, bro, like I'll be like this the whole time, like I get crazy about people, and that's why like um when I was like searching for whatever, or like when I was like open to people, um I would keep my distance and really have to like try to like not like get attached to someone. Cause like once I get attached, bro, like I'll like that person becomes my main person forever. And like I'm not a leaver. Like I literally dated someone for 12 years. Um and like when I was with that person, I thought that person was my type. I loved everything about them. Everything part of them was sexy to me. Everything they did was sexy. And then we broke up. I'm just like, ugh. And then the person I dated next was completely different from them, and I felt the same way about that person. Literally, like the way they fucking drink, the way they fucking giggle, the way they fucking organize the fridge, or the way they like, the trash bag put in. Like they just really come like legend without having ulterior motives. It's like that's how it feels for me. Like if I don't have that feeling with someone, like in the past, if I didn't have that feeling, would I like flirt around or mess around a little bit? Maybe, yeah. Like when I was younger, just because like lonely or just wanted or whatever. But like now that I'm older, bro, like if I don't have that feeling, I don't waste my time. I don't waste their time. How it is, bro. I can hear Ben in the background. He fell asleep, and I don't know if you guys. I hear him go.
What?
Bro, I heard you go. Just a second ago.
What the fuck?
What do you mean? What the fuck?
I didn't even make a noise.
Wake up. So you just been quiet this whole time?
Specifics of their arrangement. But regardless of the details, the highlights of these messages is when Poppy admits that being in sexual relationships with multiple of the people working on the channel makes it more difficult to keep things functional. Call me old-fashioned, but being in a relationship with your employees doesn't sound like a good idea. Though I understand the temptation. My editor, for example, is in possession of an immense BBL, but I resist the temptation to keep my business afloat. Once Poppy's done talking, Xena shows her true colors and essentially starts berating one of the editors for having gone to just Poppy instead of both of them.
Damn, it makes it clear just because my partner generally was organized section of. Like, I love my Discord server. I treat it like my baby, bonsai tree, and I love you, Tukado, and I prune it and have it just the way I want it. But like, look how don't crash out this crazy over someone's Discord. Usually, I have my partner handle the section of organization in my Discord server. Like, it's a Discord server. At the end of the day, it's just literally just a Discord server. It's not that serious.
To talk about their rates, something she claimed was erasing her, prompting her to say, if anyone's behavior is not up to standards, then they will not be on this team. Now that
I'm pausing this conversation so we can sit down and handle this in voice chat. People are heated and saying things that are not helpful.
like the Xena we know. Melina, who happened to be friends with the editor who was getting berated, decided to get on voice call with them, only for Xena to start getting aggressive and yelling nonstop. Sound familiar? Once Melina expressed concern that this may cause more issues in the future, Xena brought up the PMDD. From this point onward, perhaps noticing that Melina wasn't as malleable as other people, Xena became distrustful and even paranoid, in fear that information was being gathered on Poppy and Xena for an eventual expose thread. Turns out Xena was right, almost as if she was self-aware that she was an abuser, fated to eventually be exposed. Just a day later, Xena began doing the same routine she did to Spawn, deliberately not clarifying the tone of text messages and rejecting any attempt from Melina to get on voice chat to minimize miscommunication. It's not too worth it to get into the details surrounding it, but Xena and Melina went back and forth for a long time, with Xena repeatedly implying that while the PMDD excused her attitude, no conditions or triggers could excuse Melina's. This entire thing is so cancer. The conflict between them drove a wedge between Melina and Poppy as well, though the relationship was already fated to fail because Poppy was revealed to be a lot less comfortable with polyamory than they pretended to be. Soon after, Melina mentioned that they were going to see another partner, Poppy began producing issues out of thin air about how this should have been talked about earlier, though it was clear that the real problem was that Melina was giving someone.
I think my questions would be productive. I miss you too. If I noticed coming out of organizing differently between Sage being out there, those situation, hello, I haven't. Bro, these people are on the internet. Like I think we're on the internet so much, but look how these so many how do you have and carry on multiple detailed complex relationships like this at once over the internet? This can't be fulfilling. This can't make you happy. This can't be enjoyable. In what way? What universe? You know?
Else attention. This is a pattern we're going to see with Poppy actually being polygamous instead of polyamorous, meaning they want multiple partners. But the rule is that they have to all be solely loyal to Poppy.
This is a big love triangle, Discord, e-dating circle. It's insane.
Poppy. Not only is this noticeable with Melina, but Poppy publicly expressed discomfort at the sight of another partner of theirs, Sage, interacting in a sexual manner with another user, though we'll get to Sage later. This is textbook.
That's crazy. Imagine your girl is like being kind of like, oh, like, what's up, big head, under some guy's posts, right? And you're just like, you reply, knock it off. Bro, I'm not gonna be on the internet looking like that, chat. Listen, I'm gonna DM like, yo, what's that about? Flirt with another dude? Don't do that or we're through. I'm not gonna be tweeting about it. Well, that just makes me look goofy.
Stuff here. First, they love bomb. Then, when any kind of issue comes up, they demand unquestioning submission. And if it's not given, they start cutting the person off and making snarky subtweets to psychologically terrorize them. After incessantly messaging Poppy and Xena over the course of weeks to try and patch things up between them, and after Poppy continued leading them on and feeding them false hope, Xena finally
get in voice chat right now. We need to talk.
Dropped the hammer, saying, "You still don't take us seriously, do you? You can't make decisions for me with PMDD. I don't need you in that way, and I don't want you in on my PMDD. I don't think you have the skills to deal with me or Poppy during any kind of mental triggers." Yeah, I don't think anyone has those skills, to be honest. What Xena calls skills to deal with them during mental triggers actually just means putting up with her bullshit. It adds to the overall absurdity that this was said in response to Melina trying to better understand how these conditions affect.
Yeah. Let's take a selfie. Let's take a selfie for Twitter. I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna take a quick selfie of my OBS screen and be like, yo guys, 12 hours into the 24-hour stream, still going strong. Pull up. Pull up. You guys are gonna see this on screen. That's fine. I don't like people watching me take selfies. Bro, the worst thing is like, bro, I could never let someone watch me recording one of my reps. That would be so motherfucking awkward. Sideburns laid, get my edges right. Give it a little poof. Give it a little poof. Alright, say hey chat. Say hey chat, turn up. Start saying a bunch of stuff in chat, cause up in the pic. That's a good pic. You know what? It's not a great picture, but listen. One take. We're doing it in one take. Benny?
Yeah.
Buddy? Bud?
To them. So, you can't ignore the conditions, but you also can't try to understand how they work to prevent them from causing unnecessary conflicts. You can only believe in what Poppy and Xena say because they'd never lie to you. That, or they don't want to establish how these conditions affect them because then they can't blame random acts of abuse on the conditions anymore. To top it all off, Xena actually tries to frame Melina doing research into PMDD as if it were a violation of consent, and I have absolutely no idea how that works. My guess is that Melina looking into how PMDD works made Xena feel like a scammer getting audited. Someone's about to uncover their racket. After they broke up and Melina left the server, Xena proceeded to post on the server informing everyone about what happened. But of course, framing Melina as a toxic person in a variety of ways, none of which reflected what actually went down. A while after their relationship was over and done with, Poppy and Xena continued to rub it in by bringing it up on stream and further besmirching Melina to their audience, only to brush it off when confronted about it, pretending they were actually talking about someone else. Around the same period, Poppy, in a decision influenced by reading lesbian fanfiction, decided to get bottom.
Bro, I've had a few decisions inspired by lesbian fanfictions as well. Let's see who's all in the picture. Drake, Pacing, DC, Jojo, Karsa, Turk, Ilya, DC.
Surgery and create a GoFundMe to finance it. Once that was successful, it was followed by yet another fundraiser, this time for a facial feminization procedure.
Dang, bro. Dang, she was raising some monies.
Small as they were, P&Z had a pretty faithful audience, and Melina's thread didn't do that much damage to their perception in the community. However, much more people also came forward following Melina. The first person who really got the ball rolling on Poppy and Xena's demise was Noah Flake, about whom a Google Doc was made containing an exhaustive amount of their online interaction.
Bro, I have 200 plus Instagram followed of a kid. I gotta go through and accept it. She might try to
showing Poppy doing the same thing they did to Melina, guilt-tripping them about their other partners. Poppy claimed that just seeing one of their own partners online actually gave them a panic attack, and that's just the tip of the iceberg of insane jealousy. The self-obsessed BPD maniac posting was compounded by the fact that, as mentioned earlier, Poppy claims to be plural, and actually has multiple Twitter accounts that interact with one another, publicly talking about the people they're in relation.
Wait, what? She has multiple accounts and she talks to herself on them? Gosh, that's crazy.
Relationships with and tagging them to make sure they see it. By far, Poppy's obsession with Noah Flake was the worst one, counting the hours until
come see you.
Until they got to meet. I'll also make a brief caveat here that Poppy referred to Noah Flake as mom, which I just found really weird. The doc has a lot of Discord exchanges between them, which I won't read because neither of us deserve that much torture, but Poppy repeatedly flips from an age-regressed, needy personality to a hyper-aggressive, jealous, and demanding one. To shorten a ridiculously complicated story involving two plural people and their constant switching alters, it seems Noah Flake got sick of the pressure to give Poppy attention all the time and always explicitly reschedule whenever they weren't going to do that. So they broke things off, or at least they tried to. It's never that easy with Poppy. The breakup crushed Poppy, who was in peak obsession with Noah Flake, and Xena decided to step in, attempting to gaslight Noah about it. In one exchange, when Noah communicates that Poppy is demanding 100% of their time and energy, Xena simply
look at this shit. Holy fuck, man. Who are all you people? Who are you people? I feel like Patrick in that one meme with The Rock. Who are you people?
claims that it hasn't happened and proceeds to blame Noah for Poppy's meltdown using the good old BPD excuse.
I'll scroll through my follow requests, and if I see one of you guys I know from like Twitch or TikTok, like someone like I've actually chatted with, I'll accept it. But then like other than that, I like to go through them so like no actual or crusty crustaceans.
I'm not even sure what Xena was trying to do here. Argue Noah into unbreaking up with Poppy? How could anything good ever come of that? And to add to the general derangedness of the situation, Xena tries to guilt trip Noah about them agreeing to be the parent to a kid. The kid not being Spawn, but instead being...
When people say hi, I think of this. Hi! Hi, how are you? Hi!
one of Poppy's alters. I can't make this up. Unfortunately, Noah fell for the guilt trip and re-added Poppy, and the following message was written by a 41-year-old grown-up person. Runs over for hugs.
I love you, and you can't go. You scared me, but I accept your apology.
Squeezes you tightly. Admittedly, there's a lot of context and conversation surrounding this, but this part really takes the cake. I'm going insane reading this. After a bunch of age-regressed, weepy guilt tripping, Poppy sends a random selfie, apparently to elicit some kind of emotion from Noah Flake, ultimately failing, prompting even more weepy guilt tripping, which, mind you, went on for 15 hours straight at one point. All of this was done to convince Noah Flake to meet with Poppy in real life at a hotel. And I'll add that not only were they begging for Noah to come, but they also paid for the flight to get there and the hotel stay, almost $1,000 worth of costs in total. When they finally did meet, they had a sexual encounter initiated by Poppy. But Noah immediately regretted it and finally broke up. Poppy didn't like that, not one bit. On the 23rd of December, this tweet was posted, with Poppy saying, "You broke a mentally ill woman for fun after your headmate was emotionally abusive to me, and you abandoned a child because it was convenient after you sexually took advantage of Poppy to see if you still loved her. Pepper can't be found in Headspace, and it is your fault." And what did we get? Emotional harm, a lot of tears, and possibly a UTI. Well, I have no idea about the UTI. Again, it was Poppy's decision to pay for all of these things, and it was Poppy and Xena pressuring Noah Flake to show up and behave as if they were still together. Poppy even went as far as to claim that Noah owed them money for the flight as if it was their idea. Soon after came more accusations of Noah Flake being abusive, even sexually abusive, in an assault by deception kind of way. They suggested Noah was an absent parent, again in reference to her child alter, and seethed a lot about them having partners besides Poppy, an obvious violation of the whole polyamory thing, but at this point, who's really counting? There's also walls upon walls of text messages Poppy sent Noah over Discord, which I will bless myself with not having to read because they're just stalker tier drivel, not worthy of attention. This is your brain on 10,000 years of roleplay, folks. People just become fanfiction characters in real life and purposely fill their lives with demented drama. This is a technically middle-
like literally like 42 years old, demented drama. You've done this to yourself.
Aged person actually reposting.
What is DNI? Not safe for work. Teen and clients DNI. Giving baby reindeer. Bro, that was honestly I like that show.
Cringe, sad illustrations and tagging
Not
their ex.
interact. What the fuck?
Once the news that
I mean, I guess
Poppy
that's
accused
good.
Noah of SA because they didn't continue dating after having sex hit the community, it finally got a lot of people's attention because of how obviously reprehensible, confusing, and what is even going on? Unlike Noah, Poppy and Xena had a small community to whom they
Jesus.
spread their narrative, effectively committing defamation since they were accusing an innocent person of sexual abuse. As some people began rallying to Noah's defense, showing that Poppy was pressuring and badgering Noah to give in to their demands, other people who had experiences with P and Z decided to come forward as well. One of these people was a former associate of theirs, Dormiu, who recounted their visit to the P and Z household. Poppy maintained a habit of staying up until around 5 or 6 in the morning in the office, the room I was sleeping in. The issue was compounded by the fact that I needed to be out of the room by 11 a.m. so Poppy could attend appointments for clients. I was consistently running on about 5 hours of sleep for the whole week, and as a result, I was overly emotional and had trouble keeping stable. But the lack of sleep was nothing compared to the real reason I'm writing this thread. To make it clear, I was 18 at the time and I'm only 19 now, and Poppy and I's dynamic was entirely platonic and non-sexual. In the first few days, an incident occurred wherein Poppy had been getting changed and I had been in the living room. Poppy emerged wearing a shirt, underwear, and no pants. I looked away, as I would naturally. Poppy noticed this, and her response was what upset me. Poppy chided me for averting my eyes and invoked my weird asexual bullshit. I am ace, but this had nothing to do with
What
it.
the
Later in the
fuck?
week, I was painting, sitting at Xena's desk in the
Delusional, yeah.
office, and Poppy had just
Oh,
gotten
for
out of the
real.
shower. She came into the office all but naked and sat down opposite me. When I looked up to greet her, I only then noticed that she was topless in front of me, and I immediately looked away, shocked. Poppy then, in an almost confused tone, said, "What? They're my tits." I did not consent to see Poppy in any degree of undress, and she knowingly flashed me while I was a guest in her home. Xena overheard from the kitchen and asked what had happened. When the hilarious anecdote about Poppy exposing herself to me was relayed to Xena, they laughed it off. Just a few days after this
Jesus.
drama began to get traction in the community, Sage, another one of Poppy's partners, began defending them and
Damn.
accusing Noah of SA, as well as painting everyone who'd backed Noah up as a bandwagon. Now, there is some lore that I don't think is particularly worth getting into regarding Sage, but I do think it's relevant that screenshots eventually came out that showed Sage aiding Poppy in acclimating minors to explicit stuff on their Discord server. Basically, Poppy was deliberately posting not safe for work furry art, and I use that word loosely, in the safe for work sections of their server, and Sage was defending them doing this. Make of this what you will,
Jesus.
but believe me,
It gets worse.
someone under the name Brit Galaxy Brain on Tumblr made a post saying, "Poppy indirectly reached out to me in 2022
Bro,
to
that's
offer."
so weird. People have like not safe for work areas in their Discord. You can post porn in here. Bro, if you're gonna watch porn, which I don't, keep that shit to yourself. We have everything is safe for work in my Discord except for one chat room, Souls VIP. Give me a little more edgy in there. Do whatever you want. Obviously like no racism. But like I let the Souls VIPs wild out, post some funny, crazy shit in there, personal shit. But like I don't have like a Discord server where like this is the no zone. Welcome. Oh my god, I'm gonna post boobies in here, tits for you all to see. Honestly, I kind of want to now. I want to make like the no channel for like certain people. You just I'm kidding.
offer her platform
Not
to help
normal.
spread awareness of the individual this blog was made to keep an eye on. Poppy looked at all the evidence I had at the time. It has since grown and gotten much worse, and
Listen,
acknowledged
I
the
sent my tits in Souls VIP.
obvious danger involved. This person,
One
Lily
chat room.
Orchard, has a load of documented evidence dating back to
But Turkey did ask for boob pics, so I obligated. Was obligated.
2008, and a ton of personal testimonies proving
For
she
real,
is a
kids, make you feel
PDF
better.
file, a zoo file, and a serial abuser. Poppy acknowledged this.
Ew.
Instead of sticking to her word, she defended Lily against the PDF file allegations in public. Despite seeing the chat logs of Lily admitting to being attracted to children on top of the multiple graphic CP fanfictions she has written, Poppy picked multiple arguments with me because I refused to stop calling Lily what she is. I got sick of it and left. Last year, Poppy got in contact with Lily's sibling, whom Lily abused between the ages of 6 and 14, and wrote into damn near every work of fiction she's ever created. Poppy attempted to get involved with Lily's siblings as well as myself, even going as far as to send incestuous, furry, not safe for work stuff to Courtney. Let me reiterate, Poppy sent incest porn to a survivor of incest. These are very serious accusations and an entirely different can of worms, but it's definitely relevant to Poppy's case. Not only has Courtney, the person mentioned in that text as supposedly being the victim of Lily
What
Orchard,
the
personally
fuck?
backed these accusations up, but Poppy has publicly supported incest as well. Additionally, an old F list of Poppy's, which was, unfortunately, reported incest.
Hot take, I don't give an F about incest kings of age where you can support.
What
Oh.
the fuck?
Enjoy your king, judge me all you want, but it's only.
What?
Ah! I'm okay with being uncomfortable and stupid, bro.
As well. Additionally,
Lily?
an old F
What the
list
fuck?
of Poppies,
Bring back
which was
JoJo.
unfortunately archived,
F
contained
list?
interests with incest and a specified age range that went as low as 14.
Why is one of them on their kink list? Human cocks. Modern settings? Ligma syndrome? Oh, Lima.
Remember that whole thing of Poppy calling Noah mom? Yeah. Last but not least, Poppy was also exposed for having shared Spawn's medical records on Discord without their consent and leaked the full name of a client of theirs to their entire Discord chat, violating patient confidentiality, both of which are actual crimes. Mind you, at this time, P&Z were trying to frame all of their accusers as part of a cyber harassment campaign guilty of doxing Poppy simply by using the name they practiced under. One of the most concerning allegations that came out in this wave was from a tweet that read, Poppy also helped to hide Lorelei Bailey, another predator and a federal informant of trans femmes, when it was revealed she was in charge of major survivor resource communities and was trying to build influence in political spheres. In the replies, the poster attached screenshots of Poppy interacting with the supposed—
But like, dude, can you take any of these people too fucking seriously, other than like the degenerate like losers who spend all day on the internet like role playing? Because like, look at the stuff they post, look at their usernames, look at their profile picture. Like, are these even fucking humans? Like, what the fuck is any of it?
alt accounts of this person said to be a rapist and FBI informant, and at one point Poppy's partner. There are so many different cans of worms to open when talking about every misdeed of Poppy and Xena that it's impossible to tackle them all at once, and I bet more will come out after this video. But with all of these people attacking them, it begs the question, who is still on their side? Well, my best friend and love interest, Tipster, for one.
No
Tippy was caught
way!
lacking when he was called out for liking some of Poppy.
No way, bro, it's Tipster.
Fucking Tippy.
Bro, I have a YouTube video from back in the day. I actually had beef with this dude back in the day, bro. That's crazy, bro.
He still has me blocked.
Ah! Absolutely insane. That's fucking crazy. I don't even remember what it was over. You hear about what happened? Did he die?
Poppy's horny tweets despite being married,
No,
and
I
somehow
haven't heard of Tipster other than like maybe I saw like a Turkey Tom tweet about it. But like I haven't heard about him like maybe a year plus.
Turned into Poppy being the victim, culminating in a mass flagging campaign on Boblax's tweet. Another Poppy defender is my greatest fan, Keffels, who collaborated with Poppy and Xena to make anti-Kiwi Farms content.
And bro, I beefed with Keffels, bro. That shit was scary, bro. She wanted to kill me. She legit wanted to kill me, bro. Like literally, like that after the night I made a video talking shit about her online and on Twitter. Literally, I had like my Twitch stream got botted, went down. Got my first strike on Twitch for her. I got a strike on my YouTube channel. Pretty sure she tried to get my Twitter deleted. It was crazy, bro.
But that relationship also seems to have cooled off as time passed, and Poppy kept dragging Keffels into unrelated drama. At the end of the day, Poppy and Xena were alone to deal with the consequences of their actions, and the community they'd spent years catering
Used
to
to be
turned
friends with Tipster. You said used to.
their backs on them. At some point, Noah Flake called Poppy's in real life place of employment and left a complaint, and I don't know if this was the direct cause of what I'm about to say, but Poppy was given an ultimatum. Either they would have to stop streaming permanently, or Poppy was going to lose their job. The job was what kept the lights on and the kitchen counter moldy.
I used to do commentary stuff and be like involved like a lot of the commentary people. Like the dude made this video right here. I talked to him before, Discord call and lately. And that's how I met PG. Same space for a long time. And I was here on, and she finally pulled.
Two lived in New York and were paying for flights and hotel rooms for their multiple sexcapades, so I'm assuming the job paid well. However, Poppy refused to stop streaming, sealing their fate for good. Of course, this was painted as a violation of their civil liberties and transphobia, but at this point, Poppy and Xena's words were falling on deaf ears. They continued to have an online presence, yelling into the void about how Noah Flake was evil. Unsurprisingly, no legal ramifications ever came of those allegations, since if Poppy told the story to a judge, they'd either get laughed out of court or the judge would die like a Victorian child getting yellow fever. Just having to learn about all of this is too much for an old man to handle.
For real.
Poppy can still technically
imagine like reading all these messages in Discord and like Twitter DMs in court.
practice as a counselor since their license appears to continue to be valid, but I doubt anyone will want to employ someone like that. Most recently, Noah Flake was interviewed by a YouTube channel called Bagman Burns, retelling the story from their point of view. You'd think that after all of this, Poppy and Xena would have some degree of self-reflection about their behavior, but no, not even a little bit. The only way they'd ever consider the possibility
That's crazy.